Marvin Vitori has come out with his nomination for Fighter of the Year, who is none other than Marvin Vitori. And he laid out a case. And you know, it's not half bad. Let me tell you what Marvin said. He said, I fought twice, but I made weight 3 times because Robertson pulled out. That's not my fault. I did my job. Okay. He said, it also culminated with me beating world number 4. I climbed 10 spots in the rankings. He's out right there. I mean, that's it. I'm letting you digest that. That's not a half bad argument. Now, I can't give him Fighter of the Year unless I do further research and see if anybody else climbed 10 spots. But that's not a bad claim by him. And even if he doesn't win Fighter of the Year, I feel as though he has now laid out a gauntlet of criteria. Khabib climbed no spots, by example. I mean, if that's the criteria we're going to go on, you see where this becomes a problem? We have no criteria for Fighter of the Year, but Marvin was smart enough to lay it out for us, which was who has gained the most, who's climbed the most spots. I moved 10. Okay, great. Well, if you're going to beat him, you now have to surpass that. Izzy Adesanya didn't move any spots. Stipe Miocic didn't move any spots. I mean, you see the problem? You see the problem where maybe that's not a foolproof statement, but it's something worth discussing. And I'm not sure that Vitori isn't the first ever to lay out some kind of a litmus test for us to judge Fighter of the Year. I liked it, but it also got me thinking, who are my top 5? Who are my top 5 Fighters of the Year? I have to go number 1. There's no recency bias on this. I must tell you, I would have told you a week ago if he wins, and of course I'm talking to Figueiredo. If he wins, he will be my number 1. I say this largely because of his activity. I also believe that Figueiredo is actually going to win this award at the World MMA Awards, but it will be based around his activity. 4 times up, 4 times he was victorious. He lost 1 time, which was to the scale. I seem to be the only one with a problem with that. And even I am saying that Figueiredo is the Fighter of the Year. Now, hear me out on this list. You got to hear me out on this list. Okay. At number 2, I put Stipe Miocic. Now, Stipe Miocic would obviously not win it for the same reasons I just laid out for Figueiredo, such as activity. Stipe would not win it by the reasons laid out by Vitori, which is moving in spot, but I think he had one of the hardest fights of the year. He fought his true nemesis. He fought a man who had already beaten him. He fought in a true heavyweight trilogy. Say what you want about weight classes and who's the deepest and who's the best. The most coveted class in combat is the heavyweights. Stipe did this in the middle of a pandemic. Don't forget he's a first responder. Did this on the back end of a very serious injury. It was to his eye. Can't think of many more body parts more important and more sensitive than that organ, right? Your eye. Goes out there, beats Daniel. Daniel retires after it. I have Stipe as the second most meaningful fighter of 2020. Number 3, I have Chimaev. Now, this one, Marvin Vitori may agree with me with. He may be forced to agree with me that Chimaev is at least within this discussion because Vitori himself is saying, how many times you weigh in, how many times you go out there, how willing were you, and who did you beat to move your own ranking up? One knock on Chimaev, no, he did not beat a number 4 guy like Vitori did, but he was willing to try. The COVID came, the he and the Leon, and this whole thing ends up missing. He was willing to try. Certainly by star potential, nobody has covered the spread. Nobody went from an unknown to a main event in 2020 aside from Khamzat Chimaev. Number 4, this one's going to surprise you. Conor McGregor. How can you put Conor McGregor, who's only fought 1 time in 2020? Well, I'll tell you how I can do it, because numbers don't lie. Numbers just simply don't lie. Conor fought January 20th, 2020. Tickets went on sale, and they lasted for less than 2 days. Completely sold out, $10 million+ gate, which comes in as the 4th largest gate in UFC history. Spots 1, 2, and 3 all held by Conor McGregor. So the only record he didn't beat was his own records. He was in the ring for such a small amount of time I cannot remember. He threw 20 strikes, 19 of which landed. He took a total of 0 effective strikes back. There's no other fighter that can possibly touch that. There's no other fighter that has any of those numbers. Is that the litmus test? Vitori laid out a different scale, and Vittori's the first guy with the courage to ever lay it out. By the way, I got to give Marvin a lot of credit here because he's the first to come in and say, here's what we're going to judge this by. Conor has a lot of numbers, though, that support him. Number 5, I got the bullet. It largely has to do with growth. First off, she had 2 matches. Nobody touched her. She lost 1 round, which was like shocking news that she even lost a round. Her skills and her growth, not only on her feet, where she came in as a stand-up fighter, her skills on the ground, which haven't been called into question yet, they're both getting better. You have a champion of the world who's getting better, and now she's trying actively to fight Amanda Nunes, which is a fight that she is not likely to win, evident of the fact that they already fought and she didn't win. She is trying to get herself beat. At a minimum, she is trying to get herself tested. We can all agree that she is a true competitor by even starting that dialogue. Bullet's got to make the list, at least in my opinion. Those are my top 5. I didn't have Vitori, though I do recognize he laid out a very special criteria there. And I'm not the guy that's going to research that, but I will ask you, if you are that guy, has anybody else besides Marvin climbed 10 spots within 2020?